Welcome into the Illini Inquirer Podcast. It is Jeremy Werner, CBS Sports Isaac Trotter joining me, and we had a way different podcast actually planned, but we started to hear a little bit that there could be some injury news for Illinois, and we didn't want to fake like we didn't hear anything. And Isaac, we got some bad news to react to for Illinois basketball, as Kylan Boswell suffered a broken right hand, his shooting hand, in practice on Monday. So he is out at least a month. Brad said mid-February potentially for his return. That's a pretty fast recovery, just based on what you read on the internet. It's usually 4 to 8 weeks. That'd be on the faster end of things. So big blow for Illinois. Just what was your initial reaction to this for Illinois?
Significant blow. My first thought, though, is everything shifts to Andrej Stojakovic. You know, I think he is the guy that I think has to take a massive, massive step forward defensively and obviously a bigger role offensively. And he has to be someone that they can count on night in and night out to be really productive on both ends. Because for long stretches, I think of this year, Kylan Boswell has not been Illinois' best player, but I feel like he's been the glue that really ties their lineups together. You can kind of get your best defense and your best offensive five on the floor together when Kylan Boswell is out there. You know, it's afforded nights where Andrej Stojakovic can be a non-factor or play 22, 23 minutes. Like, those days are over. And so, like, I think a lot of people's first reaction is going to be like, oh, Mihailo Petrovic is the backup here. It's not. If you're looking at actually the substitution patterns, Brandon Lee has been Kylan Boswell's backup more often than Mihailo Petrovic has been the backup. He really is Keaton Wagler's backup. So Brandon Lee and Andrej Stojakovic, really my attention or my antenna is focused on those two guys. And it's just tough blow because it felt like this team was starting to coalesce into something and really had figured out their roles and who goes there and who plays when and all of that. And it's a major, major blow, and it really tests the depth and the internal fortitude of this team.
Yeah, it's never a season without some form of adversity. And Illinois faced it with injuries and illnesses last year, the Terrence Shannon ordeal a couple years ago. Isaac, the good news is you have a very good roster and you have some options here, but there is no replacing Kylan Boswell, right? Like that, there's no replacing who he is as a player, as a veteran on this team. So this team's going to be different without him, whether that's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is here.
It's wildly different. You know, I think that he's been somebody that they've obviously trusted defensively to take really tough assignments. I think that they've been able to allow some of their secondary defenders to play their best roles and be their best versions of themselves defensively, because Boswell is the guy that can take Martinelli. Boswell is the guy that, hey, we're going to put him on Braden Smith when we play Purdue on Saturday, stuff like that. Now that changes. And I really do think that, like, while Keaton Wagler's been the story of the season, and while the international influx has been, you know, such a huge part in lifting this team's ceiling, it does feel like Boswell's the bedrock of this team. And he really has been a steadying force for you more often than not this year. And it's frustrating because it felt like you're kind of in a good groove. You felt like you're kind of having a chance to make a real run at a Big Ten tournament championship. And the Big Ten is a war of attrition this year. We've seen it. You look at the bottom of the league, you know, injuries for Jackson Shellstead and Nate Biddle have totally just destroyed Oregon's season. Maryland's not the same team right now with Pharrell Payne. Like, you go down the list, USC is not the same team without Rodney Rice. Wesley Yates losing him at Washington has changed the dynamic of that team for long stretches. So it feels like the Big Ten, in order to win this league, you have to stay healthy. And now Illinois is dealing without, you know, one of their 3 or 4 best players.
I want to expand on what you started with, which is Andrej Stojakovic. I do think the initial reaction to most people is going to be, well, Mihailo is going to get his opportunity. And I do think there's going to be more opportunity for sure for him. But I agree with you that Andre is the one who's got to step up his game as much, just because he's a defender. He can defend. He's got length. Now he's going to more often probably get a go-to defensive. Like, he's going to be the guy guarding a lot of the opposing team's best players. Wagler is going to have to do that more and not foul doing it. So the impact on those two guys, but also Stojakovic offensively, right? It's going to have to be more of a secondary creator and kind of get back to that. So what is the challenge for Andre moving forward?
I think it's having the energy to be an elite defensive player and an elite offensive player at the exact same time. That's been a struggle for him at times this year. I think his best defensive games and his best offensive games, we haven't seen them at the same time. And so I think now you're going to have to learn. He's going to have to kind of turn back the clock a little bit to some of the Cal days where it's like, hey, I'm a primary offensive guy. Like, you don't want to change your what's made you so good, but like at some point, like you're needed on defense and you're needed to be a go-to offensive player. Just from a X's and O's perspective, I would expect more on-ball responsibilities get shifted towards David Mirkovic, towards Keaton Wagler even more. But now I think you're even going to have times now where, hey, you play Purdue on Saturday, like Purdue, the strength of their team is that like they have guards that really get up into you, but they're small. I think you could see reverberation or returning to some of the Alabama game plan where it's like Andrei Stojakovic against small guards. Like, we're going to try to isolate that and go to work. I think that is going to start to be a bigger part of your offense, of trying to mismatch Hunt, I think, with Stojakovic moving forward, because you just that's the best way to create good shots in certain matchups. So Stojakovic defensively, he's going to get huge assignments, but offensively, like, you just can't afford to have nights where he's just not on the floor and not impactful. He just has to be more impactful on a two-way basis, and he has to play like an all Big Ten player.
Starting lineup, thinking about that right off the bat, Stojakovic still in there. Is it Ben Humrickhouse or Jake Davis? I think that's the starting lineup adjustment, right?
I agree. I think for me, my first thought was Humrickhouse, but again, Jake has played well and earned more minutes in different spots. I think that I was kind of looking at some of the metrics ahead. If you look at some of the lineup data, Illinois has not played Wagler at the 1, Stojakovic at the 2, Humrickhouse at the 3, Mirkovic at the 4, and Tommy Avicic at the 5 together more than a minute this year. I think it's 7 seconds all season long with that 5 guys on the floor together. This is an adjustment. Like, you're kind of having to refigure your team on the fly. And that's kind of why, Kylan's such a big loss, because I really do think he was the glue of that group. Like, you're able to blend so much things together when he's on the floor. If you think about that 5-man lineup with Humrickhouse basically, stepping in for Kylan, you do have great size. You do have good rebounding. I think your positional defensively stuff would be really good. You're going to be loaded up in the gaps. I do kind of worry about the ball handling. And that's something that is going to be tested by this group. I think teams are going to really get up into Keaton. His ball security is going to be of utmost importance here moving forward. I think you're going to see Andre have to be more of a self-creation type of guy. Can you be someone that we can run actions through without being a high turnover rate guy? That's going to be a question. And Mirkovic is going to have to obviously step up and take an even bigger role as an action guy in the half court, because it feels like they're going to have to get creative and use their bigs even more, because now your guard that, what's Kylan's turnover rate this year? It's been really, really low, 11% turnover rate guard. Like, now that guy isn't, on that second side of the floor.
Everyone comes in the new year thinking, new year, new me. Well, here's a New Year's resolution for you. Don't stink. And that's where Mando comes in, guys. It's a whole body deodorant, safe to use anywhere on your body, from head to toe and everywhere in between. It was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's clinically proven to block odor all day long and control odor for up to 72 hours. Mando's deodorant product options include the solid deodorant stick. That's what I go with. The formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts. They also have the spray deodorant that is aluminum-free and ideal for those hard-to-reach places. All of Mando's products are baking soda-free and paraben-free, and you can choose from a variety of fresh scents like bourbon leather, clover woods, Mount Fuji, or Pro Sport. Mando is clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. Some men mask their BO with scents. Mando men get the job done right. Don't mask it, Mando it. Available in retailers near you, or head to shopmando.com, because for a limited time, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code Illini at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Mando's got you covered. With deodorant plus sweat control, say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. It's all hands on deck, and Mike LaTulip is kind enough to join us as well. Mike, this is bummer news, man, for an Illinois team that felt like it was rolling, an Illinois team preparing not only for Maryland, who they need to exercise some demons on. I still feel good about their chances on Wednesday, but Purdue on Saturday. What a huge game, and to not have Boswell to check Braden Smith is going to be very, very difficult. But out at least a month, that's a quick recovery. By the way, I think of all the things Illinois has, all the recovery aspect they have, having Adam Fletcher doesn't hurt. But immediate reaction, Mike LaTulip, to this bummer of news.
Well, I think the timeline first. We saw Merez get back relatively quick last year, different type of injury. But I just think you watch the Northwestern game. We knew this about Kylan, but how much of an emotional leader he is for this team. I think he's a really calming influence for this team. And so the benefit of having Kylan is that Keaton, you could kind of bring along and flip the keys to him like we talked about after UConn. And it's not like you're fully having to tread water and learn on the fly, trial by fire, because you have this guy next to you that can be a chameleon. And I think that's what Kylan is. And so now I came on a little bit late, obviously, but I heard Isaac before I was to get on. We can get into like the lineups and everything, how they're going to shake this around. It's interesting, the Minnesota game, because your depth was on display. Mm-hmm. And then now there's a lot of teams that I think you would have to probably not cash it in after this, but you'd be in a lot of trouble here. I still think this is a big blow for Illinois. But now you just fall back on that depth that you've had propel you in a myriad of games this year.
All right. So what's your initial reaction? Like whose role changes the most here?
Zavonimir and Jake Davis.
Okay.
Those would be the two. I think the two big lineup against Minnesota, I think it's a little bit more here to stay because before the season, you're worried about all the stuff defensively with Z, and now it's like Z's a true anchor. So now maybe having Tommy on the perimeter, I think they play a little more zone. I do, defensively, to be able to have that group out on the floor. And also I think it allows them to guard areas better, which will help Keaton, because Keaton's a guy that, very similar to Bennett Sturtz, you want him on the floor and you almost want to hide him defensively. Not because he's a poor defender, but because you don't want him to get in foul trouble.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, you don't want Keaton to get in foul trouble. So I think those Jake and Zavonimir would be the guys that I think their roles will change the most. But there probably is somewhat of an uptick with Petrovic. The only issue is Keaton being out there. You still want the ball in Keaton's hands a lot. Now you got a non-spacer off the ball at 6 foot. So that's the tough part there.
So Isaac, let's bring up the Petrovic conversation, because boy, it's good you have this guy. We've talked about that. At some point, it's gonna be nice to have this guy. It was against Minnesota, but it was a short stint. Brandon Lee is the more natural fill-in for physicality defense for Kylan Boswell, but Petrovic is more experienced. Obviously gives you something offensively. Just Petrovic and Lee. How do you see Brad Underwood using them, Isaac?
Well, Petrovic, I still think the biggest strength of his is his ability to turn the corner and pick and rolls. That's something that is real and can help your offense a little bit. I would be open to playing Keaton off the ball a little bit, not because I think it's good for Illinois to play him off the ball, because I think he can handle it. I think he's smart enough and strong enough and can make shots off the ball that he can handle it and play it in that role. So I think you're going to have to massage your rotations a little bit, and playing Petrovic on the ball makes more sense to me than playing him off the ball with Keaton on the ball. I just think that just makes more sense. And you just have to trust that Keaton finds a way. But again, I think with Petrovic, it's really going to come down to defense with him. What type of caliber defender do you turn into? And if you were sulking and you were pouting behind the scenes, and maybe you played nice on game day and, team, rah guy, now it's time to go. You're going to get your 12 to 15 minutes, and we're going to see actually what you're totally made of in these times. And you lean on a veteran. You kind of expect him to be able to find his different way and his different role. But there's no question. I feel like this offense certainly changes the dynamics considerably when Petrovic checks in and, assuming you have to play Keaton off the ball a little bit.
Mike, what's his role? What's Petrovic's role now?
So just to talk about a few things that Isaac mentioned there, Keaton is perfect to be able to put off the ball because his ability to shoot it, he's 42% from three this year. There's the spacing component of it, no question. But the strength of this Illinois team the last 5-6 games has actually been their possession control. They've played slower. They've played a lot slower. I mean, the Minnesota, they were walking the ball up the floor. And the reason why you can do that is because you're pretty much not guaranteed, but there's a high percentage chance that you're going to get a high percentage look offensively. And if you get a high percentage look, there's a chance you get an offensive rebound. The other thing that we need to factor in here is turnovers. We just talked about it with Kylan. Kylan's an 11% turnover rate. Mihailo's 30. So the trade-off that you have, it's like, well, if you want to put Mihailo on the ball, then you got Keaton off the ball. But is that, 3 or 4 turnovers in a 20 to 25 minute span? If you play him, I don't think you'll play him that long. The Minnesota game was interesting because it was actually, he came in, then they went zone, then they went out of the zone. But even defensively, it was a great matchup for him because Minnesota's not a high ball screen team. They're much more off ball action. So you get Mihailo chasing more. You don't put him in against UConn or some of these teams that are like high ball screen, high ball screen, high ball screen, high ball screen, like they did when Mihailo was in the game at Madison Square Garden. So that's another piece of it too that you think about. And it's almost like the Minnesota game is the perfect role for him, where it's change up off the bench, give you a spark. I just don't know to this point if you can really, really rely on him for, and I don't know, no one here is arguing 30 minutes a game. That's not what I'm saying either. It's just, there's going to be trade-offs and different levers you have to pull. And that's why I mentioned the zone too, because why a lot of NBA teams went to zone, and it's been increasing in the NBA playoffs over the years, is because you have more control over matchups. You can stick guys in areas, and it's like, hey, if you want to put our guy in an action, you got to come to our area. It's not, hey, we got to figure it out when you're calling my guy up to the screen. So that's another way that I think they can sprinkle in zones, but it'll be interesting.
One thing too, it's like when they've played man, it's damn near a zone off the ball. Like they are really zoning up off the ball. Like you saw it in Nick Martinelli trying to get those mid-post backdowns. It's like Kylan was right underneath him, and both of his driving lanes were just completely swarmed with help defenders. So it's like they've kind of mixed in some zone principles into their man-to-man defense at times with how much they've loaded up to some of these elite teams. You can do that against Maryland. I don't know how often you can do that against Purdue with success, with how well Purdue is shooting corner threes right now at an elite level. CJ Cox corner threes are like automatic. Fletcher Lawyer corner threes are automatic. So it's like, it feels like that defense is more awesome or helpful right now because of the matchups they're playing, and maybe isn't going to be super predictive for some of the matchups they have to come.
Well, that's why I wonder if you go zone against Purdue. Who's the guy that's guarding? Is it Stojakovic? Who is guarding Braden up top when they mercilessly go pick and roll game?
I thought it was Stojakovic. That was my first.
I mean, it's gotta be, right?
Like you brought it up. I'm terrified of Walker getting in foul trouble. Right? Like
you got to.
Now he's got to handle some of those responsibilities on the best players, and that's scary.
Which is another reason that Isaac just mentioned the corner threes for Purdue. When you go zone, and if your wings are disciplined in zones like that, that should be what you take away. When that ball goes, if they combat it with like a guy on the wing and a guy in the corner, you should, in theory, once that ball goes to the wing, the guy who's the low man in the zone should be cutting off that pass from the wing to the corner. So you at least can take that out. But the part where Purdue's improved so much this year is on the glass. So that's another thing that you don't want to give up to the number one team in the offense, or the number one offense in America, is those second chance opportunities. So it's going to be really fascinating how they maneuver this next, I don't know, let's call it 4 to 6 weeks, whatever it ends up looking like. But I will say the reason why I'm not doom and gloom on it is because you still got a lot of damn good players. And the one thing you haven't been able to do to this point, if you really think about it in Big Ten play, maybe I know the spread was close to a pick 'em. It was 1.5, whatever it was at Iowa. But how many games this year in Big Ten play has Illinois been like, no one believes in us, cut it loose? Like this team hasn't had a chance to be that yet. And it's like you let this team be that, and you got Keaton, you still got Stojakovic, you still got both of Vicious brothers, and Jake can shoot it. Mirkovic. I mean, it's still, there's going to be national guys, and I'm not speaking about you, Isaac, but there's going to be national people that see this and they're like, that may be it for Illinois. I don't see it that way.
Can I bring up a name that we haven't brought up a lot? Tomislav Ivicic.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's a good time that guy's
feeling
good, really good player. And he hasn't played the best version of himself quite this year. I think we've been starting to see that. Now, offense is going to run through him a little bit more, I would imagine. He's going to get more opportunities to shoot. Like, he's another guy, Mike, I'm thinking of. It's like, good thing I got that guy. And the fact that he hasn't played his best, like, now I think is an opportunity for him to really assert himself as the no doubt team leader right now with Boswell sideline.
And Mirkovic too. Yeah. I mean, how about, I think I heard Isaac say it right before I got on, but his ability to be an action guy, to even just stabilize things from a facilitation standpoint. I know he's had some turnover issues the past few games, but I just like the ability with them to play different ways. Like they can if they need to. If Keaton's out for 3-4 minutes, then you can back down with Mirkovic, you can isolate with Stojakovic, you can pick and pop, you can do a lot of different things with Tommy. And so I found it interesting in that Northwestern game, Mirkovic gets sick, doesn't start. Tommy goes into the Mirkovic spot, like the pick and pop, short roll. Like he gets the Mirkovic responsibilities. And then when they played Minnesota, they kind of put him back in that spot. I mean, Mirkovic was still there a little bit, but it was more usage of Tommy in that position. So I think that the timing of that is interesting because you're going to need some more of that.
The one thing too that I was thinking about too is you have built up a pretty darn good resume overall to afford yourself some liability here. Illinois is 12th in wins above bubble, which basically measures just how your strength of schedule is. So, or not your strength of schedule, basically your resume, you're 12th. You can afford a little bit of leeway here too, as you figure out your new team. And I don't think it's going to be something that like, we're going to look up and be like, Illinois is a 3 seed today, this injury, and basically drops them down to a 6. I don't. I think that they've built up such enough of a callus here for your resume that you're probably in that 3, 4, 5 seed range already, regardless of what happens over the next 4 weeks. And that's an under the radar element here that you have to keep in mind down the stretch.
Mike, you brought up Jake Davis. We brought up Ben Humrichos before you got on. What changes for them outside of just minutes? Like they need minutes to fill here.
The minutes change for sure. I think Ben, we saw it in the Minnesota game. I think he does do a lot of other things. And I think that was really keeping him on the floor. But the more Jake emerges, the more Zvonimir emerges, it's like, do we gotta have you gotta start making shots?
Yeah, make shots, man.
Yeah, you gotta make shots. Like it's I don't know what the slump is at now, or what I think you would
9 for 36, I believe, over his last 13 games.
And honestly, a lot of the threes that he's taken, they don't really have a chance. Like they're short. There's not a ton of lift, and I get it. Sometimes it's hard for a player to, once you flip your mindset of like, I'm defense, I'm this, it's hard to blend those two together. That's why really high level players can do it. And it's almost rare at times to see like true 3-and-D type guys. But I think things could change for Humrichos depending on, if it's a little bit less playing time. Jake Davis, you need more and more guy shooting. Like you need more shooting out there. 1, 2, the ball moves through him. So it's just having another guy out there where you don't have to worry about what is he? I mean, he's another guy that's played like 300 minutes this year. I think he has 3 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to be on the floor more. Like if you're worried about the possession control stuff more, Jake Davis got to be on the floor.
So
because
Jake at the 3 could. Do you think Jake at the 3 could start?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
That's as we've talked it through, Mike. Before you hopped on, I was like looked up the lineup of Stojakovic, Keaton, Humrickhouse, Mirkovic, and Tommy. That lineup had played like 7 seconds together all year. So like I thought at first I was like that might be the go-to lineup, but the more we talk it through, the more I do kind of think Jake instead of Ben does start to make a little bit more sense in my head. I think you obviously, when Jake comes into the game and Kylan comes out, your 3-point rate does spike. I would assume you're able to have a guy that wants to take a few more threes than obviously Kylan is. And then that opens up the floor a little bit more for the back down games, which I do think becomes a bigger part of your offensive arsenal here, whether that's Stojakovic against the small Purdue guards, or that's Mirkovic, whether that's Tommy at times too. Like if I'm Purdue, or even Maryland and Purdue, like I'm not doubling Illinois right now on the block. And so I think for Illinois, it's vital that Tommy and Mirkovic win one-on-one matchups on the low block. And that's going to have to become a bigger part of that game. And then obviously getting Jake on there does open up some of the more of those corner threes and some of that floor spacing that you need.
Well, just to add to that real quick on the trapping, I still think despite, let's say you have Jake out there, Mirkovic, Wagler, let's say they're going double big. Let's say Zavonimir's out there too. I can see some teams still saying, we're going to send 2 at Tommy because we don't believe that he can handle the pressure.
Right.
And if we want to win the possession battle against Illinois, we're going to have to turn them over. And if we're going to turn them over, if they're going to give us opportunities to throw the ball for them to throw the ball in the post to Tommy, we may just go trap anyways and just feel like we have the best chance to jar the ball loose from him. Because if Keaton has the ball for 90% of the offensive possessions, obviously you have a lower chance of doing that. So that's the other thing that I'm as these lineups change, to your point, Isaac, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how these teams guard them over the next month or so. And then you got, I mean, hopefully I don't think we've seen the last of Kylan Boswell in Illinois jersey. I don't. So that's the other thing with the seeding too, like not to veer back into that conversation. It's like, I don't think they'll hold it against Illinois because I think Kylan is going to come back. And also I think as you look at, maybe I'll save it because I'm sure we'll look ahead further, but back to trying to keep myself on track here, back to what you're saying. It's Maryland starting tomorrow. It's just the way they guard. They probably won't trap the post, but I don't know how many times Illinois is going to throw it in anyways.
Well, Maryland also loves to flood the paint, and they're going to have to make you shoot over the top against it. So I think guys like Z, guys like Jake are going to have open opportunities. That's kind of been a buzz tentacle of his defense for a while. They are going to try to beat you up and flood the paint. And
if you feel like you've taken a step back defensively, which I think this team has without Kylan, you got to score more. You got to score more. Luckily you have a really, really high level offense.
Guys, I know you're hitting the gym hard to start the new year, but you have to fuel those gains. And starting the year strong is easier and way more delicious with premium portion proteins from Omaha Steaks. Stay satisfied, get energy, fuel your routine with premium pre-packaged protein delivered right to your door from Omaha Steaks. And it's not just fuel, this is delicious experience, guys. From handcrafted USDA certified tender steaks to gourmet burgers, some of the juiciest you'll have, versatile chicken and pork and more. They have an unmatched variety of high quality proteins that everyone loves. And right now you can taste the difference and get an extra $35 off at omahasteaks.com with promo code Illini at checkout. Omaha Steaks sent me a box, guys, and I tell you, the burgers are some of the most delicious you'll have. It's really, really tender steak, and they tell you how to prep it, how to cook it, so that you cook it the best way. So let Omaha Steaks deliver high-quality proteins right to your door. Visit omahasteaks.com, get an extra $35 off with promo code Illini at checkout. That's OMAHA steaks.com. promo code Illini. Terms apply. See site for details. Just want to mention, like, we're so lucky that we get Isaac and Mike on spur of the moment right now. I'm just sitting back here listening to it. It's fantastic. So thank you guys for making your time here. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that like button and subscribe to us. We appreciate you guys. Mike, one thing I'm thinking about is Brad Underwood was pretty used to this adversity thing. 2 years ago with Terrence Shannon. Last year, all the injuries and illnesses. I mean, you brought up Merez. I'm like, oh, yeah, that happened last year. And all of the other things with Kasparis and Tommy and everybody. And they find guys like Trey White, who steps into a big role. And look how that's catapulted him this year. So what is the process you think of these guys? Like, how big is Maryland to try these things out? And what's the key for the staff to figure out, like, all right, what's our best plan of attack here moving forward? Or is it just a game-to-game thing?
I think luckily you have data throughout the season. Isaac's mentioned just the different lineup combination, what works. I think this staff leans heavily on that because that's really that's a much better approach than saying, let's see if this works. And so being able to look and see specific lineups with Jake in there, with Ben in there, you now have at least a little bit more of a sample size with Zvonimir as well to see what works there. I think all that's important because I mean, I think even last year, that was what game was that when Merez went out? Was that Michigan State at home? Was it that game?
Yeah. Well, he dunked it off the backboard and hit his hand off the backboard or something like that and broke it.
Some freak Merez play. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, he goes out, you lose at Wisconsin, you get absolutely destroyed by Duke. And I don't think
you guys were right. It was Michigan State. He got hurt.
Yeah. So when did Merez come back? Do we know that? I think it wasn't the Big Ten tournament, right? I mean, I know he played in the Big Ten tournament.
A couple weeks later.
He came back for the Iowa game.
In the Big Ten tournament.
Yep.
was when he came back. You may be on a similar trajectory here. I mean, looking at I will never doubt Adam Fletcher. You guys know this about me.
What's he got cooking up here?
I think
chamber
treatments double time. He's just gonna have. That dude's a magician. So I would not put anything past him. But yeah, I think you just look at Maryland. The problem with the reason why you don't want to go out and say let's try things against Maryland, because you could fool yourself into thinking that you have a successful plan, and it's Maryland. So that's why you have to go back and rely on the data and what lineup combinations, what has worked, and then trust your instinct and roll with it. Like, this is not as much as they could, everybody gives like the one game at a time thing. This is as much of a preparation for Purdue and beyond as it is for like, we got to beat Maryland tonight. If that makes sense.
I have a data piece that I just looked up. So with Kylan on the floor, Illinois has a 13.5% turnover rate offensively. That ranks 9th in the country. When Kylan sits, Illinois' turnover rate spikes to 20.2%, which is about 332nd in the country. So that's one key variable when we're talking about ball control. Again, ball control is everything for the offensive rebounding of this team, but that's pretty fair. Here's one other thing, though. Even with Kylan off, and even with that turnover rate being that high, Illinois is the number one offense in college basketball. Like, that's the type of offensive firepower that they have built up. Even with that turnover rate, they have a chance to still be extremely, extremely potent. Now, granted, some of that is you're playing bad teams. We all understand that. But, like, I think the turnover rate there when Kylan on versus Kylan off is really, really the key stat moving forward. And I do think, as we've talked it through, that makes me really do think that Jake is going to have to play a little bit more, and Andre's ball security moving forward is going to be paramount.
Okay, so looking forward and looking at this stretch, should we assume that mid-February is February 15th, and we'll just count them out for the Indiana game? Or should we go longer? Should we include the LA trip?
I think you either – here's the thing. My thought is, it's January 20th right now, right? A month puts us right in the middle of that California trip. I don't see the point in, I guess you could, bringing him, inserting him back in the middle of that California trip. I think it's got to be before or it's got to be after. And my gut tells me it's probably going to be after. And if it's after, that's a big one. That would be Michigan.
That was kind of my thought. Is like going across the country, you probably just rather keep him home, keep recovering, keep getting used to it. It's his shooting hand. So he's got to get used to that. So that's Maryland at home, at Purdue, home against Washington, at Nebraska, home against Northwestern, at Michigan State. These are tough road trips, boys. Home against Wisconsin, Indiana, at USC and UCLA. So what is that, 10 games? What should be a realistic goal for Illinois here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 games.
6-4.
Yeah.
6-4. I think you'd feel really good about that. The thing is that as you kind of list these games off, like it's weird. Like with this team, I feel like they could beat every single team that you just listed.
Yep.
Home or away, don't matter. Check ball, like you can win that game with the personnel that you have. But it's going to be a grind.
If you get one of those first 3 road games, like what a steal for me. I mean, at Purdue.
And honestly, yeah. Jeremy, I mean, are these potentially, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, Purdue, Nebraska, Michigan State, are those the 3 toughest places to play in the Big Ten right now?
Yeah.
I think they are.
Yeah.
So I think all of those Maryland, Washington, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Indiana, USC, UCLA, all of those, I think they'll be favored in all those games. Potentially. I mean, maybe, probably. Now, Purdue, Nebraska, Michigan State, can you get one of them?
Yeah.
Like if you can go 1-2 in one of those games, like not only we can talk about like record, Big Ten race, all that stuff, but just adding another marquee resume building win, which I think will go a long way with the selection committee to say, hey, this is what they did without Kylan. Now he's back. Now how do we factor that into the calculus?
Right. And I'm not to put the cart before the horse, and maybe this is a hot take, but I do think if you're playing Jake Moore and Kylan Less against Nebraska's defense, in my head, part of that, I could see that being an advantage for Illinois offensively. Like you're going to getting another good spot up shooter on the floor. Your offensive rebounding continues to be a huge strength. I think Illinois can really gouge Nebraska on the offensive glass. Like that's a tough game. I'm not saying it isn't, but I do think that there are paths to winning that game on the road without Kylan.
All right, but any kind of Big Ten title contention, right, kind of gets thrown out the window now. Like, I mean, without Kylan Boswell, it's just it's hard to envision that, guys.
That's fair. In my head, I just think about like just Michigan State was really healthy last year and they won the title. Like I don't think there's any there's nothing wrong with that. It just is what it is. They were able to find their groove. Their guys stayed healthy. They got into a rhythm. Like that matters in this league. Like I wouldn't say it's over, and you've obviously given yourself a huge cushion here at 6-1, and you have winnable home games moving forward. But I mean, the margin for error is certainly slimmer than it was. But
to me, it says more about the top of the Big Ten. That I'm like, hey, because I really thought that if you stole, Purdue, Nebraska, Michigan State, maybe you still can. And I just thought those home games you're going to win. There's a realistic chance. We're sitting here last week of the season. Illinois is battling for a Big Ten championship. I just don't know if I can have that expectation without one of your 2 or 3 best players.
That may be an ask me on February 7th.
Correct.
Or I guess February 8th in this case. Because what do we think at this point, as I pull up the Big Ten conference standings, and I thought this was fascinating. I think I texted you guys maybe about it the other day, but between Purdue, Nebraska, Michigan, Illinois, and Michigan State. And I think some of these teams have already played those games. But prior to each of those teams' last game, I said, you got 7-0, 7-0, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. And all of those teams are favored in their next 2 games. Some of those teams have already won that next game. So there's a chance that you have, I guess, Purdue play. Who does Purdue play next? Purdue's got UCLA. So they just beat USC. So you have a chance for it to be 8-0, 8-0, 7-1, 7-1, 7-1, all at the top. So my question is, what record wins the league? I think it's 16-4. I think whoever it is, they're going to be 16-4.
I think a team's got a chance to get 17. I think Michigan or Purdue can get there.
Especially if you factor in just the rest of the conference strength of schedule. I just pulled this up on Torvik, who has the hardest strength of schedule left in the league. Purdue, number 1, hardest schedule left in the league. Michigan, number 2, hardest schedule left in the league. Nebraska, all the way down at 14. Illinois at 10th. So just interesting. If Michigan gets to 17-3, they will have earned it because the slate upcoming is not easy.
Mike, 16 is going to get you into that realm and potentially get a share of it. I don't think a team has a chance really to get to 17 except for some of these Purdue teams, but I do think there's a couple teams that have the chance this year.
The thing with Purdue right now, though, is it's a little tenuous. I don't even know. That could be. It's they got some TKR issues. They got
Braden's hurt. Braden's hurt.
Braden's got the knee. Like I would not be surprised if UCLA beat them.
No,
that would not surprise me at all.
No.
And so there for all these teams, Michigan plays Nebraska, obviously. There's a loss. There's a loss there. I think Nebraska, as much as I think the world of them, like I do think that's they could lose at Iowa. I do think they could lose at Minnesota. I think Minnesota's not done. They're going to be grim reapering throughout the month of February and March. They're bend don't break defensively. They make you chase offensively. They're better than the metrics indicate. So I think they're not done picking teams off.
And Nebraska has to play UCLA later in the year when they're going to be more healthy. Once Sky Clark gets back, who has been their second or first best player this year.
Yeah, Isaac, you weren't kidding about Michigan's schedule either. Top 15 teams remaining. 1, 2, 3, 4. They got Duke too. 7 top 15 KenPom teams left on their schedule.
And when's the last time Michigan's played great?
Yeah,
they haven't. There has been a little bit of a back to Jesus or moment where they're just not inevitable. It's
McNeese is like their last good game.
And that's totally fair. Like they beat USC by 30. And if you watch the game, they did not play well. And Dusty even said it. It's just, that's a group that is not, I thought they were a little bit infallible after what they were doing for a while. And that, obviously you knew it was going to come back down to earth against a very well scouted Big Ten. And now teams are starting to get a little bit better. I still think that Illinois has the blueprint to be able to go up against Michigan. I think when you have bigs that can stretch the floor like Illinois' bigs can, and you have, guards that can get downhill, and the way that Illinois controls the tempo with their ability on the glass, and you've done a pretty good job for the most part of keeping teams out of transition, that checks off a lot of the boxes of what it takes to be able to go toe to toe with Michigan. And that's without Kylan.
Let me open this up to the group real quick. So we when you look at the non-road games, let's say Maryland, Washington, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Indiana. Well, I'll just stop it there. Those 5 teams, I know who I think. Who do you guys think is the most likely L on there if it happens?
I still think Washington's terrifying because they're discombobulated and they don't know their rotations and they don't have any idea who their best 5 is. But they still have. That's
personally why I'm not terrified by them, but
right.
I could see the argument.
But I'm saying that if it ends up clicking, they just get Yates back. Yates had a couple 2 games where he was kind of iffy. I kind of think Desmond Claude is addition by subtraction. He will miss the rest of the season, is what they said too. So that is a group that they have bigs that can go toe to toe with Illinois with Hannes Steinbach, and they obviously have Frank Kepnang, who's a difference maker. They have guards that can go create off the bounce. I think they have speedy guards too that could give some of Illinois' maybe slower footed defenders some issues. So that's a team that they're one of those teams where the metrics don't think they're very good, the results don't say they're very good, and I still can't get rid of the talent that they have on that roster.
Yeah, the Chris Collins team will always get me a little nervous here, Mike. But for me, it's Wisconsin. It's because they have a great offense right now. They're rolling offensively, and they don't turn it over. So they scare me because now without Kylan Boswell, their guards are really, really good. So
electric.
Yeah, that's a team that concerns me the most during this upcoming home schedule.
I just think their bigs are soft.
Yeah. And your bigs got to play well though in that game, because Wisconsin those guys, at least will give some effort. So, but those guards really terrify me going up against a team without Kylan Boswell.
And their bigs do space the floor. And the difference between Illinois actually got let off the hook a little bit, because in that game against Minnesota, it was, we cannot put Tomislav on Jalen Crocker Johnson, but you had a guy you could put him on in Langston Reynolds. So you had that guy where you could just be like, hey, go guard him. Go guard that non-shooter. We'll put Mirkovic on JCJ. You don't really have that option with Wisconsin. So that's kind of what scares me, in addition to when I talk about the point of attack. I mean, Boyd's what? We talk about Stojakovic from the non-center power forward position. Boyd's what? Top 5, top 10 in the Big Ten in paint points?
Elite. He against Rutgers,
keeping him out of the paint. That is the matchup that scares me the most out of those teams.
That's probably the right answer. Against Rutgers, Boyd had 32 points and 9 assists. That in those 9 assists, like, he created 24 points off of those. So it was like he literally was like single-handedly created 56 of their 90-something points. He is ridiculous. Although I will say, within that matchup, like, if Tommy can't guard Alexis Belauskas, they're 6'10" freshman, like, come on, man. Like, that's a matchup you have to be able to take, in my opinion.
All right. We got any final thoughts? I want to let you guys go. I think we covered every angle of this, but Isaac, what do you got? Any final thoughts on this?
I'm just kind of curious about the double big lineup and if that becomes a staple moving forward. Again, I got not to just overload on data, but they've barely played it this year, only about 9 minutes all season long. They used it a little bit against Rutgers, most against Minnesota, a little bit early in the season. So I'm just kind of curious to see what pivot they end up using first. Jake at the 3 makes sense, but I think getting Z on the floor and getting Tommy on the floor together is going to have to be ideal, because they've been 2 of your best 5 or 6 players this year. And without Kylan, you got to find a way to stuff your good players on the floor, no matter what.
Mike, final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if Z's going to start, but Z's earned more playing time. That doesn't necessarily mean 35 minutes, but I think he's earned it, which is with his ability to anchor a defense, and he's been so good on the offensive glass, all that stuff. So that's one thing I look for. But the last thing I'll say is, just compared to last year's team, when KJ went down, when Tommy was sick, when Merez went down, there's a feeling this team gives me that team did not, and it's just trust. Like, I think I just trust this team at a much higher level. Part of that is because of the depth. Part of that is because of the experience. But you also have some inexperience that you're going to have to rely on even more. So this is a really huge, obviously 10-game stretch. And like Isaac said, if you can come out of this thing 6-4, I put you what? That's 12-5 in Big Ten conference play, and get Kylan back maybe for the Michigan game, and you just let it rip and get him back acclimated, and then go make a run at this thing.
Isaac Trotter, Mike LaTulip, I can't thank you guys enough. Thanks for hopping on last minute here. Appreciate the insight as always, boys.
Of course, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, for Isaac Trotter, I'm Jeremy Werner from Mike LaTulip as well. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notifications bell. If you're listening on the podcast, hit that or follow us, rate us, review us wherever you get your podcast. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer Podcast.